Hey, Tony, I love your technology. And we can see every day things that are being stopped, all the stuff that we weren't seeing before. But he said, there's another use case for your technology that I don't know if you've ever thought of. And I said, sure, tell me.
Okay.
He said, we had a misconfiguration event occur, and nothing would have alerted us to this except for your technology. I said, tell me more. An employee had fat fingered some settings on their firewall, creating an open door that they didn't need or want, but it was just
Yeah.
a mistake, just somebody, typing the wrong thing into the console of their firewall.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we are very excited to have our guest, Mr. Tony Scott from Intrusion. And we'll be diving into his story a little bit, as well as what his company does, and then some engaging insights into the technology industry. So please make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Tony, welcome.
Great to talk to you today. Thanks for having me.
Tony, if you don't mind, if we can, maybe kick things off, if you don't mind, just to introduce yourself and just tell us a quick snippet or two of your story.
Sure. Well, my name's Tony Scott. As was mentioned, I'm the CEO of Intrusion Inc. We're a Plano, Texas-based cybersecurity company. And I've been with Intrusion about 3 years. Actually, now just a few days, more than 3 years. Um,
Excellent.
Before that, I had a number of kind of fun, cool roles. I was the federal chief information officer for the last 2 years of the Obama administration.
Oh,
And then
wow.
before that, I was CIO at VMware. I was the CIO for Microsoft for about 5.5 years, the CIO at the Walt Disney Company in Burbank, and then CTO at General Motors. And before that, I had a number of senior roles at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Bristol Myers Squibb, Sun Microsystems, and so on. So, been around the block, moved a bunch of different places, and got to experience a number of different businesses from pharma to entertainment to technology to automotive. So, um, little dabs and doos across some of the most interesting industries, I think, that there are, and government as well. So,
Yeah, that sounds so good. It's not often that I get to have a conversation with somebody that literally their track record, the companies they mention are literally all those companies that we all know. So that's quite profound. The and like you mentioned, you've been around the block, right? So having said that, tell me, Tony, what is it about this work first off that you're so passionate about it, and how was it so that you got into this cyberspace, this industry?
well, I think over the course of my career, cyber became, an increasing part of the job, an increasing part of the concerns that you have as a senior leader. I think it's quite clear that the rise of, hacktivism and malware and,
Mhm.
all the other threats that there are, have just increased immeasurably over the last, say, 15 years or so. And on top of that, you had active nation state activity. So, you think China, Russia,
Yeah.
Iran, if you're in the US. And it's not limited to government there. It's, interference with business and with, and all the companies I worked for were all global companies. So you had a lot of diverse policy and practice kinds of things to deal with on top of all of the, cybersecurity issues.
Yes,
Privacy
obviously.
was part of the issue, credit card fraud. I mean, a whole range of things shape how you think about IT and the world and the role of systems and people and kind of all the other dimensions of what you must manage if you're a leader in one of these organizations.
Well said. The on based on your expertise, right? What are the, let's call it, current trends that you are currently aware of? Currently in your, obviously in your market space. What ways are the wind blowing these days, Tony?
Well, I think there's three things that I think of that are pretty clear and evident to me at this particular point. One is the continuing and growing imbalance between the ability to defend against attacks and the ease with which attackers can acquire the tools, the technology, and the leverage, to mount pretty massive, pretty sophisticated attacks. So that imbalance is something that's been going on for a long time, but it's getting worse. It's kind of the haves and have-nots to some degree. And if you're a small or medium business, you're just not going to be able to afford to
Yeah,
hire the expertise, the talent, the tools, and configure them the right way and all of the things that are required. So trend two is small, medium business and even larger enterprises are turning towards managed service providers, managed service security providers, people who can at scale, hire the right talent, develop the expertise and across the landscape of their customers have enough um, uh, of the tools and skills to do a much better job of defending against those things that you worry about. And then the third thing is just consolidation. I think everybody I talk to says got too many tools, too many,
hmm,
suppliers of technology. I can't sort out easily what one does better than the next. I really would like to deal with fewer vendors and ultimately, lower my costs because right now I'm spending a ton of money on a bunch of tools and I'm not sure which ones are really delivering value and which ones aren't. So those are the three sort of dominant things that I see in our space these days.
very interesting. And then from a market, current market sentiment point of view, what will be your take on that?
Well, I think there's tremendous pressure on budgets everywhere. And so I think CIOs and CISOs are, kind of responding and starting to scrutinize, what am I spending and what am I spending it on? And are those the best things that I can get, for the money that I'm spending? Which ones are truly bringing value and which ones maybe not so much. So we get a lot of questions on, just prove to me that your solution is, going to bring me the value that I would expect out of the tools that I buy.
Yeah. The If you don't mind, just to explain and elaborate a bit more on, what is it, what your company does?
Yeah. Here's the simplest form of it. We have a technology that sits behind the firewall, whether it's a physical firewall or one in the cloud, that looks at the traffic that's getting through the firewall by design
Yeah.
and looks at the traffic that's emanating out from your network, um, and makes a real-time decision about whether those packets are likely good or likely bad based on our really intelligent database. We've been collecting reputation information on the internet for more than 2 decades. And so we have a very rich history that understands who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, who they communicate with, how they work, and so on. And we've supplemented that now with, decades of algorithms, machine learning, and now AI. And we stay very current on protecting against zero-day threats, and also on the outbound side, call homes, which are increasingly, a threat vector that most other technology just doesn't do a good job on. As a CIO, I know there's a bazillion ways your network can get infected these days. It doesn't have to be something coming in from the firewall. It sometimes is, but
Yeah.
sometimes it isn't. Employees walk in with stuff on their phones. You're hooked up to supplier networks. You can even inadvertently buy equipment that's got stuff built into it that is undesirable. And eventually, all of those malicious things want to call home to a command and control server somewhere on the internet and say, "Hi, here I am. What do you want me to do?" And or exfil data or whatever. And
Yeah.
so we're really good at catching that kind of traffic that most other solutions don't. And so at the end of the day, we think of ourselves as a fine-grained filter, much better than the firewall or the IDPS or some of the other things that you might have in place. And we're kind of the technology of last resort to stop the really bad stuff that's sneaking past all the other technology you might have in place. And our customers see that when we do a POC, we put
Yeah.
our tech in for a week or so. And at the end of the week, after collecting the data, both in and outbound, we show them all the nasty stuff that's getting by. And usually they're shocked. They had no idea that this, germy bad stuff was crawling
Yeah.
around in their
Was
environment.
even happening.
Yeah, yeah. It's like seeing germs under a microscope for the first time.
That's a good
You're
analogy.
you're horrified, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God. So
uh Tony, you've actually now mentioned a couple of the of good value points that you guys offer as a business, and clearly that's one of important pillar in part of your business. Tell me the if you had to like sum it up, what will be one of the strongest significant values that you bring to other companies. I don't know if you maybe can if there's maybe a short like a case study or just an example of how you provided that value. I think that will help us to understand even a bit deeper on what you guys do.
sure. I'll give you an example of a hospitality customer. We had sold our technology to a managed services provider, and they in turn had a customer who was a hospitality organization.
Yeah.
And the managed service provider got the customer to do a trial of our technology. On the first day we were installed, we detected a major phishing campaign
What?
that would have killed them. And somebody had already clicked on something bad, and now the bad guys were trying to get in and out, and it would have taken them down. And so that customer became a fan, obviously, immediately because we stopped this sort of dead in its tracks. Another customer, and these are all stories I've heard directly from our customers,
Yeah.
said to me, "Hey, Tony, I love your technology. And we can see every day the things that are being stopped and all the stuff that we weren't seeing before." But he said, "There's another use case for your technology that I don't know if you've ever thought of." And I said, "Sure, tell me."
Okay. Yeah.
And he said, "We had a misconfiguration event occur, and nothing would have alerted us to this except for your technology." I said, "Tell me more." And an employee had fat fingered some settings on their firewall, creating an open door that they didn't need or want, but it was just
Yeah.
a mistake, just somebody, typing the wrong thing into the console of their firewall. And now
Yeah.
all of a sudden it opened a big door that they
My
didn't
word.
intend to be open. And
Yeah.
Shield caught it. Intrusion Shield caught it and said, alerted the team and said, hey, there's something going on here that we're not used to seeing. And we pointed a finger at, the firewall and said, go check your, firewall setting. And sure enough, they quickly, found out what had happened and fixed it. So it's not a use case we thought of, but
Yes, but
um,
it's a very good example as well. I mean,
but it happens all the time. And when I get asked, what's kept me up at night, I
yeah,
worry about all the usual things. But as a CIO, the things that actually got me up at night most of the
yeah,
time were human error kinds of things, like somebody fat fingering a setting or
mm,
not doing something according to the, process we'd laid out or whatever. So,
protocol. That's such a good examples. The you mentioned now sometimes be like obviously, but from a leadership and a point of view, I'm thinking now, if in your opinion, let me rather ask you this. In your
yeah.
opinion, what type of mindset, right, would you say is needed to be a successful, you know, leader, founder in a company?
I think there's a couple of things that stand out to me, and this goes across my experience,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
in the company I'm in, or helping get things started. And it sounds trite, but people, number one, you just got to have the right team, and anybody who's not a good team player just shouldn't be on the team. This is a team sport, no matter how you do it. And it doesn't mean you can't have different opinions or strong arguments or, all of the other things that are required to, you know, build a business or keep it going. But at the
yeah,
end of the day, you got to work as a team
yeah,
when it's go time. And I see that in all the best organizations I've been in and been associated with. And the other one I'd say is critically important is not only understanding the business that you're in, but also what's changing. Our world is rapidly evolving in a whole bunch of different dimensions. People want to talk about AI today, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. And our businesses are changing, commerce is changing,
yeah,
lifestyles are changing, obviously politics are changing. There's all kinds of things going on in the world, and all those have implications for how you do business and
yeah.
the value that you bring and so on. So got to stay on top of that. And then
The
probably the last one is just always be learning. I just love sucking up new information because it gives better, perspective on the second thing that we talked about.
you mentioned now learning. If you don't mind, if you can maybe give one or two, let's call it golden nuggets, just for the the aspiring leader, the aspiring employee that wants to get to that position where you're currently at, of maybe something that you've learned maybe in the past or so. If you don't mind, just to if you can just share one or two.
Seek feedback from people.
Yeah,
You have a self-formed impression of who you are and what you're good at and what you're not good at, and so on. And it's especially important the higher you go up in an organization. People are going to try to please you and flatter you and tell you how good you are at various things. And it's easy to fall into that trap. So I say, fine to listen to those people, but listen to your critics as well. Seek diverse opinions, and and then take corrective action where there's something that needs attention. That's probably the most valuable thing I've found as a leader is be willing to accept, sharp criticism, in fact, and from some
Mm,
places that, you know, humbles you, but also gives you better perspective and seek out, the opposite opinion. I was trained as a lawyer, and one of the great things about law school is the professors ask you to argue and understand both sides of every case that you're studying. And you get called on in class to argue one way or the other,
yeah,
and you never know ahead of time which one you're going to have to do. So you're required to look at a 360 sort of
point of
view
view.
of things. And I found that discipline has really helped me,
Mm,
immediately try to understand where the other side might have a point of view or a argument or a case to be made before you get settled on your own, point of view.
yeah.
And it helps a tremendous amount.
Yo, Tony, I need to thank you for this valuable contribution you made today. There's a lot of points from a not just from a value, but just from an experience point of view that you you know good points you provided us with. Thank you for this knowledge. Thank you for coming on. Tell me, Tony, where can the listeners where can they get hold of you guys, your business and so on?
We're at intrusion.com. And I'm Tony.Scott at intrusion.com. So any of those, they can see our website, see our technology, or contact me personally. I'm happy to respond.
Oh, lovely, Tony. And then I hope your clients, which is your clients indirectly, I hope you find another one of those use cases where on the first day you guys pick up the challenges that they've got. So all the best to you guys. I can fully understand why you guys are so successful. Good luck. Good luck with leading the business as well. And thanks for the time once again.
Yeah, loved it. Thanks for having us today.
Excellent. Take care. Bye now.
Bye.